Hey, it's Scotty. Let's talk about the difference between boy and girl guinea pigs. But first, let's take a quick second just to learn to identify the difference. So this is Grape, and he's going to show us how to determine if you've got a boy. And basically, right here, you're going to push above the pelvis, and you will see if something pops out, it's a boy. And this is one of the rescue mamas that I just rescued. Now, instead of a little round bump, you're going to see more of a Y shape with, there's a little bump there, but if you push on the pelvis, nothing will come out. It's a much smaller area. Okay, now please check out this diagram right here. So now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about considerations and behaviors and the differences between boys and girl guinea pigs. So when it comes to some considerations, we're talking about cage setup and bonding and cage mates. So first of all, boys should be kept in pairs. I know that sometimes people have trios and the occasional group of boys, but that is extremely, extremely rare. And I'd love to hear what you guys think. So in the comments, if you have had a different experience than what I'm about to explain, I'd love to hear your experience so that we can all learn from each other. But in general, 99% out of the time, 99 out of 100 guinea pigs, they are going to, the boys, it is hard enough to get them to bond with each other. It's only about a 20% chance that two boys are going to get along. And that bond, usually it is very strong. Two boys that bond, they are strong. They should stay bonded for life, especially if they're bonded as adults or they make it through that adolescent period and into adulthood and stay bonded. But adding a third can oftentimes create a rift. It can cause trust issues, and it can just in general make that bond shaky and even break that bond. So I definitely don't recommend having a trio or adding a third boy. That can really spell disaster for your stable bonded pair. Now, when it comes to girls, they can live in a pair, they can live in a trio, or they can live in a group of any number of sizes. And girls can actually live with a neutered male if you are lucky enough to find one. So when it comes to a group of girls, they really need a certain amount of cage space. Now, if you look at guineapigcages.com, they have a chart that will explain roughly how many guinea pigs or what size cage you would want for how many guinea pigs you have or you hope to have. With boys, I really wouldn't recommend any less than a 2x4 CNC cage. And remember, 2x4 does not count, it's not the feet, it's the grids. These grids are 14 inches, therefore a 2x4 CNC cage is actually 10 square feet. So I wouldn't go any smaller than that. I would not put two boys in the Midwest. I would definitely try to go with the CNC cage or a cage of similar dimensions. With girls, same thing. A minimum of 2x4 is really going to help them thrive. In a pinch, a Midwest for a pair of girls would be okay, but why, if you're going to care for any animal, why would you only give them the minimum size? So I would definitely recommend a 2x4 for a pair of girls. A 2x4 for a trio would also be okay, but it might be best for 3 or 4 girls to be in a 2x5. Again, check out guineapigcages.com for their recommendations. So let's briefly talk about boys and girls living together. So I don't mean together. At the LA Guinea Pig Rescue, we have a hard enough time dealing with all of the accidental pregnancies that come in when guinea pigs are surrendered, or also all the accidental pregnancies. I just rescued 4 pregnant girls from one of the local animal shelters, and luckily they're going down to San Diego to We Companions, and we're really grateful to them. But there are so many accidental pregnancies that there's no reason to breed. There's no reason to keep boys and girls together. If you are interested in a baby, you contact your local rescue, and believe me, before you know it, if they don't already have babies, there will be babies coming. And if you have your heart set on adopting a baby guinea pig, then there will be some on the way if there aren't already a whole bunch of them. But something to note when it comes to that is they grow so fast. Baby guinea pigs grow so fast, and your baby guinea pig is going to grow up very quickly. And don't think that just because they're a baby, it will make them easier to tame. My guinea pig, Nate, right here. Now, it does say Gary on the cage because he's a cage hopper, and they switched places. So this used to be Nate's cage, this used to be Gary's cage, and Nate was actually determined to be in this cage. It wasn't that he loved Gary, he just really wanted to be in this cage, because when I put them together, he didn't care. When I put him back, he kept jumping back into this cage. So Nate, he was born with me, and I've had him for his whole life. But it's really only after about 2 years, 2.5 years, that he started to really be tame, really be calm. And for a long time, he was very skittish. And babies typically are like that. If you adopt an older or a full-grown adult guinea pig, they are really going to become tame a lot faster. No matter how wild or scared they might be from whatever situation they were in, they are going to become so tame and so calm if you follow my taming suggestions, if you treat them with respect and give them the space and the care that they need to flourish. They will really become very tame and a whole lot easier than babies. So that's just something to consider. But let's talk about boys and girls living in the same room. I personally don't do it. I have a couple kind of tentative bonds. Basically, as a rescuer, I have had and brought girls in here overnight, and all the boys knew that there was a girl in here, and there would be fights sometimes, or there would be chasing, there'd be tooth chattering. And so I personally don't want to introduce a girl into this room. I wouldn't have a neutered boy and a girl in this room, because all these boys know what's going on. So I personally, in fact, I have a group of rescue girls out here in the living room, and I try to keep them separate. Whenever I rescue girls and foster them, I can't do long-term fosters for girls because they need to stay in a separate room. This is the bachelor room. And personally, in my experience, it's been crazy. But I've seen plenty of times and talked to plenty of people, and at the LA Guinea Pig Rescue, we have a big room with lots of guinea pigs, boys and girls that live side by side. Sometimes you'll have cage jumping, or you'll have attempted cage jumping. So when there are boys and girls, they might need a divider. Now, I put a divider up here because these guys are just chewing on the grids and chewing on the coroplast and just kind of annoying each other. And so whether it's boys and girls or just different pairs, some pairs do fine interacting with each other, and some singles and groups interact with each other just fine. Remember, it's all about personality. Guinea pigs are individual personalities, and so sometimes they can tolerate who their neighbors are, and sometimes you really need to think about that before you set up long-term neighbors, especially of opposite sexes. So if you want to know more about boys and girls living together, living in the same room, I have a whole video about that. I'll put that right here. And remember, when I put a video in an information card like this, it will also appear if you scroll down below the description, or sometimes there's a menu that says more from Scotty's Animals. And of course, always remember that with Google or inside YouTube, if you've got a question or a topic, after over 500 videos, you know I've made a video about it, probably more than one. So if you want to know about boys and girls living together, you can search Scotty's Animals, boys and girls living together, and 100% of the time, those videos that you're searching for are going to pop up. So I really hope that you will take advantage of the power of search, and also take advantage of my free guinea pig care guide on my website, because that video, along with a number of other videos that are related to bonding and cage mates, are all there on my free guinea pig care guide in the bonding section. So check that out. And if there's a video that you couldn't find, or if there's something about my care guide that you think could be better, drop me a line. There's a contact form. I'd love to get your feedback, because all of us together, we're going to be able to provide the best information and improve the lives of guinea pigs and help people all over the world. So thank you for helping me do that. So before we talk about behaviors, let's talk about considerations now. I talked about cage size, but what if you start out with a pair of guinea pigs and you decide you want to adopt more piggies? Well, if you have boys, then you need to give another cage, a separate cage, with the minimum size. So I said a 2x4 for a pair of boys, and you don't want more than a pair living together. But boys can live together in the same room. So where in some situations, my boys don't see each other. They live side by side. Now, if I'm feeding lettuce, they can hear each other, but constantly being nose to nose, they can really drive each other crazy. But I have other groups where, as you've seen in these videos, they interact. You know, all the piggies can be fine. But you'd be surprised if I took one piggy from a group, from a pair, and put them in the other pair, that pair might end up fighting, you know, and it takes time to learn the personalities of your piggies. But the consideration is, if you have boys, you're going to need side-by-side separate cages for each pair or each single, given the minimum size. And eventually, you're going to end up with a guinea pig city like this. But if you have mostly girls and a neutered boy, or a big herd of girls, you can have a really big cage, and you can pretty much keep them all together. Now remember, don't commit to adopt or bringing a new guinea pig into your home without making sure that they get along with each other, or that you are fine if the bonding process doesn't work out, that they live side by side. And over time, like if you found a single boy and you wanted to find a match for them, suppose you found a single boy and you had two single boys here and you tried to bond them and it didn't work out. They could live side by side happily, and still at the same time you could then simultaneously still not give up and try to find friends for each of them. But if you keep bringing in new piggies and you keep committing to keeping them before you have a living arrangement established, you're going to end up like this. You're going to end up with lots of groups of singles and lots of groups of pairs all side by side, and you're going to be surrounded, which is a really great quality problem to have. But if you want to avoid that, if you only have a certain amount of minimum space, like if I had a herd of girls, I could have, I wonder what guinea pig cages would say, but in a 2x8 run like this, I could easily have 5, 6, who knows, maybe even 10 piggies in a space like this. And that's a lot of piggies, and still it would be only taking up half the space that I'm taking up now. So that's something to consider. Boys are going to require a lot more space once you start getting more of them, whereas girls can share the space. They can share the space and live together a lot more peacefully. But now, speaking of peacefully, let's talk about the differences in behaviors, because people who don't have guinea pigs, they come into the rescue, a lot of times they say, well, what's the difference between boys and girls? And they want to know really about their behavior. But this is the spiel that I give them, is like, well, first I'm like, well, envision your guinea pig setup. Do you envision ever getting more than a pair? And if that's true, are you okay with having side-by-side cages? Because if so, you can have boys. But if you only want one space and you want a bunch of guinea pigs, then girls is probably the thing. But everybody wants to know about their behaviors. And as I've already said, it's really all about personality. But and this is kind of a very interesting thing. As I was writing down my notes, I realized that it's kind of the opposite of what you'd think, because in general, the common wisdom is that girls are calm, girls are calmer, and that boys are rambunctious. Now, when it comes to Gus and Popeye, maybe that's true, although Popeye's a little sweetheart and Gus is kind of a jerk, and they will chase each other and they will be rambunctious. But the truth is, a pair of boys that are bonded, they're usually very calm, very chill, and if they've been bonded as adults, then, you know, if they're full grown, they tend to be very mellow. They tend to get along, and that's the way it is. But a group of girls where maybe, hi Grape, maybe each individual girl is, Grape, you want to come up and say hi? Come here. Where maybe each individual girl is calm, a group of girls is always jockeying for the top spot, or they're sometimes in the middle ranks of their pecking order, they're establishing that. Or there can be a lot of back and forth and a lot of bluster and fluff that really doesn't amount to much, but can seem like a lot of commotion. So it's kind of counterintuitive. Let me grab Grape. Grapey. Oh, come here. Hi, Grape. Good boy. Hi, Mr. Grape. This is my new foster, Grape, and he's staying here until there's space at the rescue. Hi, Mr. Grape. Good boy. So even though I said maybe boys are rambunctious and maybe girls are calm, or maybe it's the opposite of that, maybe boys are calm when they are in a stable bond and girls can be rambunctious, you know, in a group that has, you know, the top pig, then a bunch in the middle, and then the low pig on the totem pole. You know, the truth is, it's really all about personality, and those combinations of the different personalities are what is really going to determine who the piggies are, how they interact with you and each other, and what your overall experience will be. So I really hope that this video kind of clears things up. You know, when it comes to guinea pigs, you can't necessarily say something definitive. So I'd love to know what your experiences are. Have you had a bunch of boys and girls living together in the same room? How did that work out? What's your setup, and what are their personalities, and how does that do their personalities affect the overall way that the room is? So is your guinea pig room quiet and peaceful, or is your guinea pig room always a lot of commotion and a lot of noise? Now, if I crinkle the veggie bag or open the fridge or rinse something in the sink, then of course it becomes a full-on lettuce riot. But that's typical of all guinea pigs. That's the one thing that all guinea pigs have in common, is they've got really good ears and they know when it's time for treats. So I can't wait to learn more about you and your piggies in the comments. Let's continue this with the bonding playlist. I want you to refresh your memory on the bonding rules and then go through and watch some of the bondings, because that's really going to teach you what behaviors are acceptable, what behaviors are normal, and what behaviors, sometimes very subtle behaviors, are something to look out for, something's not right. So I really hope you will dive deep into the bonding playlist. Until next time, thanks for watching.